Welcome to the Truth Expedition. I'm your host, Mark Bashofsky, and on this program, we scratch and claw, dig, pry, grind to try to find some objective truth, some real truth in this insane world where fact checkers lie and the government propagandizes you and I. In today's world, this surveillance grid, this biosecurity world where we have license plate readers and facial identification cameras everywhere, it is becoming ultra important to understand how we can avoid this matrix, step outside the matrix, how we can be secure and private on the internet where our data is being collected. And to understand central bank digital currencies and cryptocurrencies. We're moving to the system of a digital currency, and it's really important to understand how these work and how cryptocurrency is similar and different. And that's why today I've invited an expert, an internet wizard with all things internet security, computer engineer, somebody who understands our 100 years of indoctrination and everything that's going on, and that the world is a big scam full of lies. And that's why I've invited, like I said, an internet expert here. Doug Koellmer is somebody I've looked up to and referred to and asked many questions about all of these things we're going to talk about today. So Doug, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so the world is full of lies and it's a big scam, right? In your mind? Is it as mine?
That's not so bad. It's fun at least, right?
Yeah, it's the most interesting time to be alive, I would say. You know, in my mind, it's just a bizarre world, and trying to slither our way through it and find out what's true and how to be safe and understand all these lies. I mean, we're in the world right now. Our controllers would have you accept subjective truth, that opinion polls are truth. It's just becoming insane, and so trying to find some truth is difficult to find, but that's our goal on the show. And again, we're going to try to get to some truth here today. So like I said, Doug's an expert. I reached out to Doug when I started my campaign to figure out how I could protect myself on the internet, stay a little more private, and Doug was of great help. And so the first question I would ask is, in your mind, is the government tracking our data? Are they paying attention to who I'm texting? I mean, how much of this data, my phone calls, my emails, are they paying attention to?
Yeah, so it's been, hold on, something's up with, okay, sorry, Zoom was acting up.
No worries.
Yeah, are they tracking? Yeah, they're tracking everything, anything they can. I've worked, and it's not just governments, it's companies. And as you know, we're at this point where we're basically at this point of fascism where the line between corporations and government is like just non-existent. So I've worked for both government and corporations, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, they want as much data as they can get. They don't even know why they want it. Your manager, your boss just tells, get that data. And you're like, why do you want it? I don't know. We might need it in the future. So in many instances, they don't even know what the data is going to be used for. What matters is that data is like this currency, like this money that they just know they want more of.
All right. They can sell the data, right? I mean,
yeah. Of course they can sell the data. So the data does have some value, but there's a lot of instances where you're like, why are we logging this person's pet's name or whatever, like just like it doesn't matter, nobody cares, right? But it's just this mentality of accumulation, like a hoarder. Like it's like, why is a hoarder just putting a bunch of stuff in their house? Yeah, you don't even really understand why, but they're doing it, right? So corporations and government are similar in that regard. Now, of course, the data, like you said, does have value, market value as far as advertising, and as far as control, right? If you know something secret about somebody, there's the presumption that you can get them to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do, which is often a correct presumption. So yeah, especially nowadays, it's just getting out of control. Everything's collecting data. Everything's listening to you. Everything's watching you.
Yeah.
it's not paranoia if they're actually after you, right?
Yeah.
uh so yeah, I cover my like when we started the interview, I was like, oh, I forgot to uncover my webcam. I have a little piece of tape over my webcam. Why not? It's just, is it watching me 24/7? Probably not. I mean, but is it capable of doing that? Yes, it is. It's a matter of drawing boundaries around the fact that, like, okay, that's enough, right? You've gotten a lot of my data, but I'm just going to start putting up some boundaries here. Any relationship you have, boundaries are important, right? Like, so people have a relationship with the internet at large, with Skynet, right? And that's fine. It's not like the relationship is bad or good. It just becomes bad if you don't have self-respect and boundaries involved. So that's kind of where I come at it
Yeah,
from.
and I would think a lot of this data is probably being used to feed the coming AI machine too, right? I mean, it's just
Oh
feeding
yeah.
AI this intelligence to know all of us down to almost our thoughts. I mean, you listen to the World Economic Forum, and they have this like patch you can put behind your ear where they can know your frequencies. So if someone's over there, they can tell that I'm thinking about the same thing and could be colluding. I mean, it's getting crazy and just to think what we don't know, the technology we don't know they have is scary.
Yeah, they really pulled a fast one on most people. They got people so worried about security and like privacy that, we kind of all forgot about the fact that our data, like you say, one of the prime reasons for it is feeding this AI, if not the prime reason. The whole Edward Snowden, they're tracking you kind of thing. I think that might have even been like uh, I don't know, like a Trojan horse.
Limited hangout kind of a
Oh
thing.
yeah, limited hangout. Yeah. Whereas the real goal is to feed this Chat GPT type of intelligence, which isn't really intelligence. It's just this parlor trick that makes you think it's intelligent. It's like, yeah, it's seen every single permutation of conversation over the past decades that's happened online. So anytime you ask a question, it can just go to that specific conversation that it's seen somewhere in some database and just present that to you as if it's its own original thought, right? I mean, it's not that simple, but that's basically the idea.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned Snowden, and I saw an interview with him a couple years ago where he literally performed the task of hacking somebody's phone while they were sitting there. I believe the phone might have even been off, and he was able to access the microphone and the camera. I mean, so those capabilities, maybe if the phone's not off, if it's off, they
Yeah.
can't.
Oh,
But
if it's off, yeah, you can. Yeah, there's something called the baseband processor in phones. So it's basically an entirely different machine and operating system inside the phone that's separate from the operating system and machine that you interact with. So you can presume that this is pretty much always on unless there's like literally zero battery, like it's completely drained. At which point, even I'm not that paranoid. I mean, I'm sure at some point it does turn off for good, but the processor doesn't use that much energy compared to the outer operating system.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that shit's crazy. I mean, I know they're like, for instance, me, I'm on the state executive, the GOP state executive board. So, and having run for office before, people are watching this. They're not spying, and there's going to be people watching this just to see if I say anything crazy that they could use against me if I ever ran again. But beyond that, it's like, and I think we've talked before how they're not necessarily tracking word for word every text I might send you or listening into the phone calls, but they definitely have somewhere like I called Doug on this date at this time, and that's probably ledgered somewhere.
Yeah, it's much more about metadata. So the actual content of messages is almost a needless distraction. It's almost too much data for their systems to deal with. You would only use it in very specific cases where you're tracking down Mark Pishovsky specifically for some specific purpose. But the system overall doesn't care. Hollywood is giving us this idea that they're just going after individuals, but really it's much more about trends and movements of people in aggregate that they are concerned with. It's analytics is another word for that. So like with COVID, for example, they're not interested in individuals being anti-maskers or something like that, right? They're just they're interested in trends in certain towns, states, Facebook groups, that kind of thing. They don't really care about you or I specifically for such things.
Yeah, I think
If we start, yeah, if I start making a bomb or something and threatening to blow up the White House, yeah, maybe they'll drill down to me specifically.
So now those keywords there that you just said, bomb and White House, maybe that triggered them to listen in. That's the kind of thing I wonder. If you say certain words, like, does that trigger their system? Be like, okay, it's time to listen in. And maybe, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, the words are like tags. So our conversation would be getting tagged based on the number of times we say a certain word and the emotional vibe behind that word. So yeah, our conversation would, after we're done, we'll have like 20 tags, and if you upload it to Rumble, right? I don't know if, well, Rumble is partly owned by Peter Thiel, right?
Yeah.
Who owns Palantir, who was like the premier
he was
spy agent.
He was the PayPal guy, right?
Yeah. So right now he runs or owns or whatever Palantir. That's like one of the main data collection analyzing companies that there are right now. So yeah, so Rumble our video might be getting tagged after you upload it with like 20 or 30 tags of, of what we talked about, what the main topics of conversation were, what our intent was to some degree based on our body language and things like that. So that's possible. What, I don't know how what they're doing is in Rumble's specific case, but all that is possible.
Yeah, and Rumble's supposed to be the free speech, platform, but who knows? We'll see how that all ends up. And people, your average person out there, everyone wants privacy when they go to the bathroom and they close the door. There's a certain level of people, do respect privacy, but your average person out there doesn't. I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't care if the government's listening in to me. They, the controllers would have us think that it's for our good, that they can know everything we're doing. And, I was a bit like that in the past, when it came to, are they going to catch criminals because they can spy on everyone? But no, privacy is of ultra importance to me these days.
Yeah. So, well, going back to what you said about the bathroom, I think that's a good point to start with people, because you have to start with where people are. You can't just fast forward them to some post-apocalyptic Terminator scenario where they're being hunted down by machines or something. Like, yeah, so you can frame it like, do you close the door when you go to the bathroom, right? Yeah, of course you do. Everyone knows what you're doing in there. They can hear it. They can smell it. Okay. But still you close the door. It's just a matter of basic human decency and self-respect and boundaries. Like I said, again, boundaries. If you really think about it, why are you closing the door? Everyone knows what you're doing in there, right?
Yeah.
But there's something deep down in our, I don't even want to say psyche, because animals do the same thing. My dog goes and hides, in a corner of the woods when she does her business. Maybe it's some kind of primal, like, you don't want to be snuck up on or something. I don't know what it is, but the fact is it's there. So you can just apply that to your digital self as well. Because anytime you're using these computers, you're doing a dirty deed. People don't even understand. These machines are a lot of grossness with these machines.
Yeah. So I think, let's let the audience know how Doug protects himself on the internet and the things that you do to try to stay out of the matrix. Because if I understand it right, do you not even own a smartphone?
Well, I own smartphones for my work, but I don't use a smartphone. So I technically have smartphones. I have like 20 of them, but they're just all in Faraday bags when I'm not using them. These are like silver lined bags. So if I put my phone in there and try to call it, it won't get the signal. That's one way, a basic way you can prove that a Faraday bag is doing what it's supposed to be doing. There's smaller ones too for individual cell phones. So yeah, I don't use a smartphone myself. I have an emergency one in my car that I'll bring out if I get totally lost, but I don't use GPS for things. I just go old school 90s. I have maps in my car. I memorize directions, landmarks, geological features, valleys, rivers, railroads, which is a whole nother thing with machines, is like how soft our minds are getting. Just since the past few years where I stopped using GPS, yeah, it's incredible. I can drive cross country and just get exactly to where I'm going without any directions whatsoever. I just have to memorize a few key landmarks, few key road names. That's it, and I'm good. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So what do I do? So Faraday bags, yeah, no smartphones. Get rid of your smartphone if you can, or just use it as an emergency backup. Keep it in a Faraday bag. That's a very specific, simple thing that people can do. I would say I would back up a little bit and go with strategy. So strategy, as far as using the internet, I have a public persona on the internet and a private persona. It's called like going gray, and some people call it. So yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm talking to you right now. Right? Everyone can see my face. But I also have a persona on the internet, or means of communication on the internet that are, as far as I am aware, completely untrackable. Or if they are trackable, so be it. But I tried my best. But like, we talk over session, right? You and I.
Yeah.
So with session, which is just like a sort of a Telegram replacement or a Facebook Messenger replacement, there's nothing leaks whatsoever. Message content is totally encrypted. Nobody even knows that we are communicating when we use session.
So Doug, I'm going to have, hey Dawson, can you pull up that session, the picture of that website it's getsession.org. So if
nice.
Anyone out there who wants to, we'll talk about this more. So when Doug and I text, you can call, I believe, on Session too. We use this program called Session, which is run on a blockchain, which is 100% end-to-end encrypted, and it's getsession.org, and you basically download it, and then you're given you produce your own name, moniker on there, and then you're given an ID, and you can share that ID with other people to communicate. So they don't even have your phone number. I mean, it's truly, and I will tell you, Doug, that I made a post about this, like, hey, everyone, stop giving your data to the controllers, get this. And people were so skeptical. Oh, nothing's secure. Oh, nothing's safe. They're still listening to you. They still know your messages. False?
Oh, I love when people say that. Okay, so basically what they're saying is that they are okay going to a coffee shop and accessing their bank without SSL. So SSL is that little lock icon in your browser. So it's been pretty ubiquitous over the last 2 decades. Like pretty much every website you go to has that little lock icon, which means the site is SSL, which means your traffic to and from the site is completely encrypted. Before that, if you accessed your bank at a coffee shop, a little script kiddie, we call them, like, just not really a hacker, but somebody who just downloads scripts and runs them, could sniff your bank password through that coffee shop Wi-Fi. So that little lock icon in your browser, you can make the argument that, okay, the NSA can see it anyway, so why are we even trying? But this is just a simple example that, okay, at least you're stopping somebody. At least you're stopping the script kiddie at the coffee shop. And then you can take the analogy from there. Like, okay, I use a VPN, we use Session, I have this Faraday bag, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you 20 other things that I do. Maybe I'm not stopping the NSA. Maybe I'm not stopping Sauron from being able to see exactly what I'm doing, okay? But I am stopping my internet service provider. I'm stopping people driving by in the street trying to sniff my Wi-Fi. I'm stopping script kiddies at the coffee shop. I'm stopping my government for the most part, the lower levels of it. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I'm stopping a lot of people. I know that for sure because I have the same capabilities as them and I can't hack this stuff, right? So yes, maybe there's some like Satan level intelligence that can see everything. In fact, I assume there is. Okay. I mean, just full disclosure. So these people do have a point, but for practical concerns, why not just put some effort in and keep the Satan's minions at bay? Okay. Maybe you can't stop Satan. You can stop his minions though. Okay.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
my
it's like doing the best you can with what you have. Fight the war with the weapons you have. And it's like I should mention here too. Doug's no criminal. It's like he's doing all of these things, but it's the purpose here is this whole woke ideology of we're all in this together and just let us gather your data because it's all going to be good for you. But it's not. Why give these people all of this data that they're using to manipulate you? We all realize this already. Even if it's just a matter of they know what you bought and what you're buying and what you're going to buy, and then they can steer you around the internet, like, pop up these ads that they know what you've been talking about because this microphone, this Google microphone is listening. And so why give them all of this stuff? And I would say Session, and I've looked into it a little, and Doug's 100 times the expert I am. Session's the best thing out there to be able to peer-to-peer communication where it truly is encrypted, and it's run on a blockchain, correct?
Yeah, and well, let me go back to the encryption point. So end-to-end encryption, that's actually not that special nowadays. There's 100 platforms with end-to-end encryption. What's really the extra mile that Session goes is that there's zero metadata leaking. So like I said, nobody even knows that we're talking to begin with, which is a very rare thing. So all the other secure messengers like, Telegram, they say is end-to-end encrypted. Dubious claim. Signal, Wire, what is it? Threema. There's a ton of them. All of these are end-to-end encrypted. All of them also leak metadata.
Right, because they have your phone number.
Yeah, a lot of them have your phone number. Even if they don't have your phone number, they can see that this person is talking to this person. So they can see your IP address. All kinds of things. So Session is this one that just, I can't even think of one thing it leaks off the top of my head. Like there's nothing really.
So it's run on a blockchain. And for those people, so we're going to get into talking about cryptocurrency here and central bank digital dollar. But getting into that, before we go there, we can talk about what a blockchain is and how Session is run on a blockchain. And that's how the messages are sent securely?
So it is, let me see. Session doesn't have a centralized server. So like something like Signal, it has a centralized server. So there's an entity behind it, passing the messages back and forth. Session is built on just a decentralized node network. And each node in that network is incentivized to run that node using the currency, the cryptocurrency underneath it, which is called Oxen. So saying it's run on a blockchain is not precisely correct. It's more just the blockchain is there as the incentivization. Is that a word? Okay. the incentive layer.
So Oxen, the cryptocurrency Oxen, which is that a privacy coin too?
Yes. Yeah. So in itself, it is a privacy coin. And then you can build these layers on top of it, like Session. They also have a Tor, if people have heard of that. Tor, like it's like a next level VPN, basically. So let's just say a VPN competitor also is built on top of Oxen also. And Session uses that same kind of routing protocol where when I send a message from me to you, it's hopping through, I don't know, eight different nodes, and each node is blind to the node between it. It's kind of hard to describe without like a chart and stuff, but
cool. So,
if you go to that website that you put up, they have some pretty good explanations for how it all works.
Yeah. So a couple things there. So knowing what a blockchain is, just a brief, and when that came about, I think we should talk about that. And then honeypots, where Signal, Proton Mail might be a honeypot. But I believe the concept of a blockchain, there's probably earlier iterations, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, it came about with the Bitcoin protocol that was released. What year was it?
Yeah, that was 2009, was it?
2009, where Satoshi Nakamoto, who we don't even know who this person is, um, released that Bitcoin protocol on the internet, and people started minting coins. But that's kind of when the concept of, I believe, is when the concept of a blockchain became popularized, and there's all kinds of uses for a blockchain. So just a very, like, layman's term, what is a blockchain?
Yeah, so 2009, I would say decentralized blockchain. So a blockchain where there can be a global consensus on the data in that blockchain without any centralized authority. So super simple, right? Yeah, what Bitcoin did, the core innovation at the very foundation of it, is that it solved the double spend problem without a centralized authority. So if you think about it, if you go to the hardware store and you buy a saw for $100 on your debit card, and then you go to the restaurant next door and buy a meal, well, big meal for your family for $100 as well, how is the bank organizing things with their software to prevent you from spending that same $100 twice? Right. So the bank actually has pretty elaborate software to handle these kinds of situations, because there's all kinds of edge cases having to do with chargebacks and returns and all these kinds of things that are not so trivial to deal with. So you have the bank sitting there as a centralized authority with very complex, decades old software on these big mainframes and stuff, organizing all this stuff. Okay. So what Bitcoin did is it introduced this capability to do the same thing, prevent the double spend or manage the double spend without any kind of centralized, central bank authority. So yeah, I mean, people like to glamorize blockchain and everything it can do, but it really starts from that foundation. That's the core innovation. Everything else having to do with cryptocurrency can be done, like, was actually invented decades before Bitcoin, and a lot of the stuff that's come after you can do to various degrees without Bitcoin. So that double spend is the linchpin in everything. It's the core innovation.
Yeah. So Bitcoin is what we're talking about with a lot of this stuff here is decentralization, and that's the key to everything. If we want to be free, we need to decentralize everything: our currency, our messaging, everything. And so a decentralized distributed ledger is another way to say it.
Yeah, it's just like a bank has a database, and again, it's a centralized database. Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies are simply decentralized databases, and the integrity of that database is maintained by what people have heard are called miners. So miners are just churning their computers 24/7, hunting for these magic numbers, essentially. I mean, it's kind of stupid. If you understand how it's working, it's like they're just guessing numbers as fast as possible. And but the mathematics works out so that they actually secure the network. So you can have this global database that's not owned by anybody, and yet its integrity can remain totally intact. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's proven itself since 2009. I mean, we'll talk about how it's, is Bitcoin the CIA coin? Who the hell is Satoshi, who invented this, and why is he anonymous, and all this? But I would say, and a lot of people, there's so much to talk about here, and we will have Doug on again, where we maybe just focus on just cryptocurrency and give some tips on how you can buy these things and how to secure them and the wallets. Now I forgot where I was going with that, but I would say some of these cryptocurrencies are perfect money, where a lot of people, for one thing, they say it's a CIA coin, which is backed by nothing. It's just this whiff of nothing, but it's not. It's backed by the work put into it and silicon, right?
Yeah, it has the most unambiguous, auditable, public, no nonsense backing in the history of monetary systems. So It has an even better backing than gold itself. I have a little show and tell here. So I have some gold right here, right? So you can ask, what is gold backed by? And people will say, well, what do you mean? Gold is backed by gold. Like, what are you, crazy? Well, obviously they have not heard of derivatives markets and paper gold, because gold is actually backed by dollars. We are living in complete inversion land, where if I don't know how much gold they say exists, like let's say like a city block cubed, right? I think that's what the common story, right? But as far as paper gold, there's 100 times, 200 times more gold in circulation, right, in the form of paper than there is actual gold. So even gold itself is not as backed as cryptocurrency. Gold itself is just this, it has almost turned into this imaginary thing that like I have this coin right here and it's worth $2,000, if you can believe that, this tiny little coin. I can sell this to you and say, well, hey, you know what, Mark? I know I just sold you this coin, but for everyone's best interest, I'll hold on to it for you, right? I'll keep it in my secure vault. And then when you want to sell it back to me, you don't have to ship it back. There's no insurance. I'll give you a deal on the premium, right? So you don't, instead of paying me $150 extra over the spot price for this gold, I'll give you a $75 premium. I'll just keep it in my secure vault, right? And then what can I do? I can go and sell this gold coin again to somebody else.
Fractional reserve.
Exactly. As applied to gold. Yeah. So people think, oh yeah, you have to go with hard metals. I'm a fan of metals. Obviously, I have them in my hand. But as far as backing, yeah, people have to really get educated. Cryptocurrency is the most secure backing that mankind has ever come up with.
Yeah, because with gold, it's like really a lot of the value with gold is its scarcity and the work it takes to get any more of it. And the same could be said with Bitcoin or these other cryptocurrencies. It's the work it takes. I mean, because it's like many servers. I don't understand that point of it, but there's all these computations that need to be done to be able to mint a coin and secure that block, I believe. But there's value. And like you had mentioned, and we'd talked before about how the silicon, it's backed by silicon too.
Yeah, in fact, I envision some kind of futuristic world where people are using microchips as coins. That'd be kind of cool. Like, because then a microchip represents real value if you could just plug that into a machine and start mining cryptocurrency with it. Yeah, it's just kind of a cool idea. But yeah, you said like the value of gold is the amount of energy it takes to extract it from the ground. And yes, that's true. But that only works in a high trust society where we have like trust in our institutions and each other. And we are policing each other like on a kind of peer-to-peer level and making sure that people aren't doing any shenanigans like selling a gold coin 100 times when they only have one of them. Okay. So in a high trust society, gold is great because then gold is backed by gold, which is backed by trust. Cryptocurrency, we need that because we're not living in a high trust society. I don't know if anyone noticed, but that's why they called it trustless system. It's another. It's a way to describe cryptocurrencies. Trustless.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna back up just a second here because I wanted to bring up when it comes to cryptos. I think of because I'm gonna back up to VPNs. If you want to pull up the mulvad.net, and what's really beautiful is. If it doesn't come up, that's fine. But so this is the VPN that Doug recommended I use. And everyone's heard of a VPN, a virtual privacy network, I believe. But I was able to purchase this VPN with a cryptocurrency called Monero, or XMR, without providing an email address, without providing a phone number or anything. So ultra private. Nobody knows I even have this VPN. And that's, so if you can maybe blend that into the conversation here.
Yeah. So, cryptocurrency, you can use it for lots of things that you wouldn't want to use credit cards or cash or gold or anything. But yeah, VPN specifically, is a great example. Well, first back up to what a VPN is, I guess, right? So a VPN, when you're using a VPN, your internet traffic goes from your computer to your ISP, right, your internet service provider, to the VPN, and then to the website that you're visiting. And then the same way back. So website, VPN, ISP, your computer. So your ISP cannot see which site you're going to, and the website cannot see what basically your ISP or your IP address and your location and everything like that. You can kind of think of it like a PO box for the digital world. Yeah, so if you can pay it, a lot of people go wrong though, because they'll use a credit card to pay for VPN. Now the VPN company knows who you are. So if they so choose to keep logs for law enforcement type situations, now they're really no better than your internet service provider, who also knows who you are. So when you're using a VPN, it's very important to not give them any what's called KYC information, know your customer. So Molvad is the most zero KYC VPN out there.
Yeah, because not all VPNs are alike, and some are honeypots. What's a honeypot, Doug?
Yeah, honeypot. I mean, if you're trying to catch, a bee or a fly or whatever, I don't know where it came from actually.
But it's the term in the internet security world, or
yeah, I mean, like where it came from originally. I don't know. You're trying to catch something with something sweet, right? So yeah, when you have VPNs that are cheap, first month free, these are called honeypots because they're trying to draw you in with a really sweet deal. But what are they doing? They're logging your traffic. They're selling it to advertisers. Worst case, they're responding to government subpoenas, and
or worst case, they are the government.
Yeah. Well, like we said before, we're in fascism right now. We're in the complete merger of corporations and government. So who even knows where the boundary is? I was going to say something else, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like there's so many directions to go with this conversation. But it's like, is Signal a honeypot? Is it there to get all of us, freedom lovers, so they can get us all in one spot and kind of, corral us to a certain degree? Is Proton Mail? Are a lot of these VPNs? That's, so we have to, if you want to try to do what you can to preserve liberty and personal responsibility and to decentralize, then I think it's best to start using these like Session and Molvad to check out from the system the best we can, because anyone getting rid of their, asking people to give up their smartphones is, wow. That's
baby steps.
Yeah, baby.
Like start where you are. I mean, the easiest thing you could do is get VPN. That's or a Faraday bag too. Just when you go to bed at night, just put your phone in a Faraday bag. Start small, right? There's a saying: rightly begun is half done, right? And you can't start where somebody else is. You can't start going on the dark web out of nowhere. Okay, so just ease yourself into it. Have respect for these machines. These machines are like the most powerful, magical tools that mankind has come up with, and we're just treating them like, just like they're just totally innocent. Like there's no risk involved, right? So now we can see the risk coming in. We were the internet in general is kind of a honeypot. We were all seduced for like 2 or 3 decades there with how great the internet is, and now it's starting to clamp down. All right. So it's clamping down a lot more. It's just getting started. So people should just try to get ahead of it, or just stop using computers. Just go Amish. That's cool too.
Yeah.
But
I wish more people would do that. I mean, I would, I would rather just live on a farm and check out from this whole system, but I can't. That's giant steps. But no, your average person out there, your average person is just totally unaware. If anyone watched this, they just think we are crazy to even be concerned, and the government's good, you can trust them, and they're here to help us, and there's no evil people out there. The world is not run by psychopaths, and 9/11 was 19 dudes, and we're just crazy to these people.
Yeah. Well, the government's there. You can use it. You can use your imagination to to shift the paradigms around. You can say government's there just to make me stronger. It's like a bit like a mother kicking the baby bird out of the nest. I mean, that's how I view it, just to survive every day. I
Yeah.
have to put a positive spin on it. Like, yeah, it is making me stronger. I'm super happy for 2020 and all that nonsense. Like, I would have been in the same place where I was with the same job, same everything, right? But deep down though, I knew I needed to improve myself, and I needed that kick in the pants to really get my ducks in a row. I think that's when I stopped using a smartphone. Maybe it was a little before that, but I mean, many improvements in my personal life due to the government just going crazy on us.
Yeah, and it's like, is it even the government? What even is the government? Is it this whole global elite, and who's behind the curtain and who runs the government? That's a whole nother show and conversation. But let's go a little more into the cryptocurrencies. Again, it's decentralized. We all use digital money, so to speak. I believe we're using credit cards. That in a sense is digital. PayPal, all these things are digital, but I think we're moving to a point now where hopefully more people will start using these cryptocurrencies, the privacy coins, because the central bank digital dollar is coming, and a central bank digital dollar will be a cryptocurrency. Maybe you can't call it that, but it'll be on a blockchain, right?
I don't. There's two possibilities in my mind. One is that Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe some other was like Ripple. These are going to essentially be the new CBDCs. So it's kind of the situation where they're trying to make you afraid of something that's already there, or make you hate something that's already there. Sorry. So that's one possibility to me, is that the Ethereum, Bitcoin, Ripple, and maybe some others are just all going to be merged into this weird central bank digital currency. The other possibility is that they're just rolling it completely centralized through traditional banking software, and then they're just calling it a CBDC. Those are the two possibilities for me.
Yeah, and they're testing it somewhere in this country. I don't know the exact details and sequence of how far along they are with these, but I should also mention too that there's going to be potentially two different central bank, and it's coming, central bank digital currency. So the central bank, the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank for those that may not know that, they would control all the currency from the Federal Reserve. But I believe there's a pushback from the banking sector, because if the Federal Reserve was issuing all the loans, and going around the banking system, then the banks all go away. So I believe there's going to be, I've heard Max Egan talk about this in Berwick, but there could be two different types of central bank digital currencies, one that the Federal Reserve issues, and then one that the Federal Reserve issues to your bank, which they then issue. Does that make sense?
I haven't heard of that, but yeah, it could easily be that could tie in with the theory that Bitcoin and Ripple and Ethereum are the CBDCs, and they're being groomed to that direction. If you look at the history of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and especially Ripple, they all started out pretty free and decentralized and kind of cool, right? I mean, if you were into Bitcoin in the early, like 2010, 11, 12, you were basically an anarchist. You were an extremist, but now it's just been taken over by the suits. And they've all been pushed towards communism, basically. Like, I don't know if people have heard of the Lightning Network with Bitcoin. It's like this side chain communism, basically, you can call it. Ethereum moved from proof of work, like we were just talking about, computers churning away, securing the network. They moved to proof of stake, which, again, communism. That's all it is. It's just capitalism versus communism. So these coins are becoming more and more communist by the year. That just what you just said of these different CBDCs, that kind of ties into that notion.
So you think they might just take over the Bitcoin network and call that the central bank digital currency?
Yeah, they've already taken it over. I mean, it would just be more a matter of consolidating what they've already taken over. and just really squeezing out any vestige of decentralization from Bitcoin. Right now, most people, like I had, well, most people are using Bitcoin on exchanges, right? Most people have chosen to centralize Bitcoin themselves already. So it's not, they don't even have that much further to push where the system can just lock out certain Bitcoin wallet addresses. If you try to create a new wallet address, it doesn't accept it until you do a KYC, know your customer procedure, where you like scan a license and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's already ripe for just taking over the edge and turning into a full centralized currency that is only nominally on a decentralized blockchain, right? It's just like oh yeah, we're still decentralized, we're still cool, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So Bitcoin is, a lot of people, not a lot of people I know buy and sell these cryptocurrencies and use them, but I think Bitcoin has become more of a store of value. But on that note, it's the most successful store of value or investment in the history of the world. I mean, starting out at $1 or what a coin, and went up to 60,000. It's currently at about $28,000 a coin. So would you say it's more of a store of value right now and more of a centralized store of value?
Yeah, it's about half and half. Like gold and silver, these to me are almost 100% store of value. It would be nice if they were a currency like they were back in the day, but take it from somebody who tries to give these things out. I always try to pay in silver. Gold is hard. I mean, one of the things that makes gold hard to pay with is because a little tiny coin is worth $2,000. Like, so, well, I mean, that's where more show and tell. Gold backs come in. So these are like a few dollars each. It's just like a piece of paper plated with gold, I guess. Has a 1,000th of an ounce. So take it as someone who tries to use metals. Metals are not a currency right now. They were in the past. They probably will be in the future. But right now, they are pure store of value. Yeah, cryptocurrency to me is like half and half. So, I mean, for most people, it's 100% store of value. Actually, it's not even store of value. They're trying to, moonshot. They're trying to get rich quick.
Investment.
But yeah, for me personally, it's about half of a currency. So I pay for a bunch of things with cryptocurrency. For the most part, it turns out to be online things, because using cryptocurrency in person is kind of a pain. I know that also from experience of people. Like, I mean, for one, I don't have a smartphone. For two, even if I did, it's very hard to use a cryptocurrency on a smartphone in a secure fashion. It ends up being kind of like a Venmo type of thing at the end of the day, which kind of destroys the whole purpose of cryptocurrency. Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, when it comes to out and about, I just use cold hard cash, baby. I mean, still nothing better than that right now to remain anonymous and private in person.
Yeah. I mean, do you see a future where, I think, 100 years from now, yes, but a future where it is, functional to buy something with a cryptocurrency, with a phone? Do you think that is the future?
No, I don't think it's the future. I think cryptocurrency is a great bank wire replacement and a great credit card replacement for online purchases. That's what I view it as. So I don't personally see any need to push it further than that. If we could get people doing that, that would be amazing. To use it in person in a secure fashion, that requires just so much technological infrastructure. That's really hard to incubate in a decentralized way. Some software you can do in a very decentralized way, and it's great. Hardware, that's just a whole nother beast, like point of sales hardware and equipment, which already is a pain in the ass to use. I was at the coffee shop the other day. I just had to wait 5 minutes for this person in front of me. I don't know if it was their fault or the machine or whatever, but I mean, and this is the traditional credit card system. So when you get into cryptocurrency, man, I just don't see it personally. But I mean, that's not a pessimistic thing. I think that's just realistic. And there's still a huge, huge market for people to start using cryptocurrency online.
Yeah, I mean, because there was a point where I was gonna, because for one thing, Bitcoin, if you're not using the second layer, the Litecoin, like if you want to use Bitcoin to go buy a coffee, say the coffee shop accepts Bitcoin, it's going to take 10, 20, 30 minutes for that transaction to get settled. And it's going to cost, depending on how much the network's being used, to buy a $3 coffee or $6 coffee now, it might cost you $1 or $2 just to make that transaction. But there are cryptos out there, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, which aren't private, but XMR, Monero, it's called, where the transaction happens within a minute or two and it costs just pennies to transact with. And that's what I would prefer to use. And I have used Monero to buy things on the internet. There is actually, there are merchants out there that accept it, and more people should use it. It's not that difficult to use.
Yeah, there's a learning curve. There's no getting around it. So, I mean, people think that, sorry, show and tell, dollars. Yeah, everyone know what this is? People think this is simple. All right, cash. If people knew just the sausage that went into our whole fiat monetary system and how gnarly it is under the hood, they would have a deeper appreciation for the complexity involved and how much is being subsidized to support this fake currency and how complicated it really is. So people think, oh, cash is simple, cryptocurrency is complicated. Cryptocurrency is much easier to understand than our current fiat monetary system. 100 times easier. You just have to get a book, Bitcoin for Dummies, whatever it is. I mean, it probably helps if you're technical, obviously, but the overall concepts, like I was talking about double spend before, people can Google the Byzantine generals problem if you want just something to follow up on after this. So there are ways to describe what Bitcoin does, how it does it in simple terms that everyone can understand. It's understandable. Let's put it that way. Cryptocurrency is understandable. I guarantee, I don't care who you are, I don't understand this. I don't understand how this thing is magic. This is just dark magic. I mean, there's all kind of occult symbols on here. I mean, who the hell knows what's going on with cash? I understand it's simple to use, but that simplicity is coming at a huge hidden cost that we are all experiencing more and more as the years go on with this control matrix coming in.
Yeah, it's
cryptocurrency. Yeah, just learn how to use it, edify yourself, put in some effort. And cryptocurrency is about becoming your own bank. So that's a lot of power, but also a lot of responsibility, right? So right now you have the power with these things, but with zero responsibility. Like if people just understood how magic this stuff was. And I mean, I also said, start where you are. So if people are interested in getting into cryptocurrency and getting off the matrix and everything like that, first of all, just start using cash more. I mean, just stop using credit card as much as possible, especially smartphone payment apps. Try to wean yourself off of those, just slowly, step by step.
Yeah, use cash when you're in person and use Monero for online purchases. So if you wanted to buy a cryptocurrency, there's a couple KYC, know your customer, exchanges out there. Coinbase is probably the most popular. Robinhood, you can buy these as well. Kraken. So like, I believe Coinbase and Kraken, they use the Plaid network where you can just connect your bank account. You can go there. You can buy some Bitcoin or one of the other thousands of cryptocurrencies, and then you can leave the cryptocurrency on that exchange, but then you don't own them. But the best way would be to have your own wallet, correct?
Yeah. Is there a noise coming through? Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything. Sounds
okay.
Perfectly silent.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, just start with some big centralized beast system exchange. Like don't try to go all dark web right out of the gate. Just play within the rules of the system. Just have, have that public persona, that public kind of entity, right? That is Doug, that is Mark. I have a license. I'm a good, upstanding citizen, right? And use that first, and then just slowly kind of create an alternate ego on the internet, as you go along. And then you can start getting into the non KYC dark web kind of totally private stuff. And I can help you out with that too if you get to that point.
Yeah, and so when we get towards the end, we're almost done here. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So when we get to the end, we'll give you Doug's information, his website, how you can utilize Doug's services when it comes to tutoring you on cryptocurrencies or anything computer engineering and that kind of thing. But I think Doug and I, we've had private conversations, and we talk about this type of thing here. I don't know if you can see that, but the controlled demolition of the American empire. I would recommend everyone read this book. It's a little far-fetched in places, but really kind of gives you a good understanding of how we've come to this point of fascism. And that's where I wanted to, because Doug had made a prediction to me in the past, about how Doug's, we're on the center of the internet, Facebook, Google. Doug's kind of out there towards the edges, the walls, and Doug sees something coming here potentially in the fall, the Jubilee season. And what do you think? What do you think is potential? What's your? I know you don't like to make predictions, but what do you think might happen this fall?
Well, I love to make predictions. I just don't like when they don't happen. Yeah. So just like we have our holidays, and, Christmas, we get together with the family, we have our traditions. Yeah, the elites also have their big holidays too. So a big one's coming up in the fall called the Jubilee. I don't know the exact date. I mean, I'm not trying to get that specific, but so there is that indicator in favor of something happening, right? So they always like to pull these big events every 7 years in the fall, right? 9/11, banking collapse. Then there was
Kennedy was in the fall. Kennedy was in the fall too.
Yeah, that was probably a Jubilee year, I'm guessing. I don't know off the top of my head, but regardless, they love to pull these things in the fall for whatever reason. I guess it's just like their time to really go, and then they take a break over the holidays. You notice nothing ever happens over Christmas and New Year's. Nothing. Anyway. So yeah, I think something's going to happen this fall. I think it's going to be something related with the internet. I don't know exactly what. Could be just like a Russian hackers. Could be a solar flare. Could be some kind of virus that just gets out of control. It could be ChatGPT taking over some major website. Oh no, something like that. Whatever the story is in the news, obviously, I mean, they'll be totally bogus. I mean, don't believe it. But nonetheless, just like we saw with COVID, the ripple effects are going to be the main thing. They're going to be 100 times more powerful than whatever you think actually happened. Was there a virus? Was it engineered virus? Was it from a bat? Who cares? The ripple effects are what really matter. So I think there's going to be some story pushed in the fall. Maybe you'll wake up in the morning and it'll be like, the whole Western seaboard has no internet. Like, what happened? And then the day after, it's going to be like, oh, we have evidence that Russian hackers came in and took out a data center. And then there's just going to be all these stories just thrown at you. No, it wasn't Russian hackers. It was the Chinese weather balloon. It wasn't the Chinese weather balloon. It was aliens. Yeah. I mean, you're just going to have stories after stories thrown at you, but really it's just to create this perception that the internet is fragile, it's susceptible to attack, and we need to just really start locking it down. Like, we can't, because really every boogeyman is going to be implicated, right? Indirectly. So what you're going to see, practically speaking, is things that I already encounter on a daily basis, right? Because I use a VPN, you will start, once you start using a VPN, if anybody starts, you'll start to see these CAPTCHAs coming up everywhere. So a CAPTCHA is just to basically prove you're a human, right? And the irony is, like, it's turning you into more of a robot. It's turning you into less of a human. But yeah, so it's basically there to make sure you're a real person. And the step beyond that is going to be KYC. It's going to not only want to make sure you're a real person, it's going to know exactly who you are. So I think you're going to start seeing like webcam verification come into play, maybe license verification, which already exists for like payment applications and like stock market exchanges and things like that. But they're going to start creeping into things that are, we deem not so important right now. Maybe like social media look at these hackers, they infiltrated social media. We have to make sure that Mark Bischoffsky is exactly who he says he is. Scan your license. Anyway, I don't have anything super specific, but just a general kind of incentive to start decentralizing yourself, to create this alter ego, like I was just talking about, so that you can stay on these public institutions, these public websites, if you so choose, for your business and things like that. Yes, I'm a good, upstanding citizen. Here's my license. But you can also go to the black markets. Black markets thrive in communist dictatorships. They absolutely thrive. So just learn how to use this new black market that is being created.
Yeah, with cryptocurrencies and things like that. Because I think what we need to understand is, like, after 9/11, we're left with the TSA. I still have to take my shoes off. I'll go through all these scanners, all that. So, and after 9/11, they don't let these crises go to waste. They probably create them, and then we're left with this, this post-pandemic garbage. And now the next step. And I should mention, too, so they had Event 201. Most people probably know this, but Event 201 happened September 2019, where it was a coronavirus pandemic simulation. And then, lo and behold, a few months later, we had a coronavirus pandemic, and they've ushered in this whole insane new great reset. And I believe internet going down. So they had Cyber Polygon in August of 21, I believe, which was a internet grid goes down simulation. It's this predictive programming, letting you know what's going to happen. And then after this happens, internet goes down, maybe like Doug said, maybe it's just the coast, or maybe the internet goes down completely in America for 2 or 3 days. But then all of a sudden they just usher in this more biosecurity so they can completely control and censor us, beyond what they're doing now. If I want to say, this COVID vaccine is a bioweapon used to kill people, they're going to shut me down.
Yeah. So just start creating those alternate systems where, the internet and computers are just a tool. So if you're lazy about it, like if you're using like a hammer and you're just lazy, right, you're going to smash your finger. So most people do not know how to use computers and internet. They think they know because they can swipe and tap and, blah, blah, blah. But these are very sophisticated tools, and I say give them their proper respect, or you will smash your finger, proverbially speaking.
Yeah. So, again, so much to talk about. I want to have Doug on again, and maybe we'll just really, hone in on one of these subjects. This was kind of just the exploration of everything here. But do you happen to have a bottle of your Brushitov? I have one over here. So this episode was brought to you by Brushitov. So hold that up. I want to say, we're going to give you Doug's website here. But this stuff here is a tooth powder. I use it. And again, I said I need to order more. A bottle lasts me about 8-9 months, depending on how often I'm brushing. But it's a tooth powder, not a paste. Toothpaste, and we don't have a whole lot of time here, but toothpastes are poison. It's not just the fluoride. It's like the petroleum-based products that are required to maintain its paste consistency. It's just, they're not healthy. And this tooth powder has got, 3 ingredients?
Yes. 3. Yeah.
And what's even better is it's, it's the ultimate in free market utilization and decentralization. Decentralization is buying from, the little guy. But what's awesome here, what I found, is when you go to Doug's website, he gives you the recipe to make this stuff. And also promotes
right on the bottle.
So you could make your own. And he also gives you website links to his competitors. I mean, so it's the ultimate in transparency. But I love this stuff. I mean, you put a little scoop of the powder in your hand. I use the side of my toothbrush. I scoop it up and brush. It's fresh tasting mint. It's got no poison in it. So it's amazing stuff. Get yourself some Brushitov. And also, so Doug's website is aytwit.com. And the way to remember this is, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Correct? Is the
Yes.
acronym.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I think Doug's got a couple products there you can purchase. Hardtack, which is a survival food.
Can't tell.
Yeah, so that's like a cracker essentially that's going to last forever. Have some on hand. It's full of calories. And then the Brushitov Tooth Powder. But I would say more importantly is utilizing Doug's services as a computer wizard. If you want to learn how to use any of these cryptocurrencies, if you want to understand how to secure your laptop, how to slowly, step by step, take yourself away from this matrix, how to install a VPN, how to use a cold wallet for your cryptocurrencies, all of these things, hook up with Doug on his website, aytwit.com. Atwit is kind of how you would say it, I guess.
I say Atwit. Everyone says something different.
Atwit.
It's probably not the best name from a marketing perspective, but as you probably know, I'm not really. I'm old school. I like the name, so deal with. Everyone else has to deal with it.
Yeah. So support Doug. I mean, Doug's a home. Do you unschool or homeschool, or what do you call your method of teaching your kids?
Yeah, we do both. So I would say homeschool is you're trying to simulate public school, right? Like that's how I view it, where you're trying to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, and all the boring stuff. Like I say boring, but I mean it's necessary for our society, right? Like you have to know how to add and read and stuff like that. So that's what homeschool is to me. And my wife mostly takes care of that. She teaches Polish, English, math. We actually have mathematics professor teaching our kids right now because my wife's dad is like a very well-respected mathematics professor. She mostly takes care of all that stuff. That what you would more traditional homeschooling. I mostly focus on the unschooling, where my kids want to are trying to make a bow in the woods, and I'm like, all right, yeah, come here, I'll show you how to show them some knots, show them how to carve wood, that kind of thing. So basically, whatever they're interested in, and I know how to do, I will just step in and try to nurture that interest. It's more just like casting seeds out and seeing what grows, and then nurturing that versus kind of top down. You must learn this. You need both. I mean, I think. Yeah, I think when you're trying to do either totally one or the other, it's you're losing something there. So.
Yeah, we do the same. I mean, the world is the classroom. We do, the traditional. We make sure they understand math to a certain degree and they know how to read. But science and history is just kind of happening as the day goes on. So it doesn't.
Oh yeah, well, history is the one thing there's probably other things, but. Yeah, history we don't repeat from public school, because I don't know. I don't try to teach them anything about history, because the more I look into it, I don't even know what happened 100 years ago. I look at technology from 100 years ago that I can see right in front of me in an antique store. I can look at a book published in 1850, and I can be like, this book you're telling me they were using steam engines and printing presses back then. I mean, this book itself is this piece of high technology. I don't even know if we could make a book like this nowadays. So I see things right in front of me from 100 years ago that are way more advanced than anything we could make now. So I don't even know what happened 100 years ago. I'm just done with history.
History is a hard one because I do teach it a little. They have a pretty good understanding of, the time frame when the revolution happened. But Jekyll Island, my kids read the Tuttle Twins, and, Connor Boyack, has some good books for these kids so they can understand the importance of freedom, personal responsibility, the free market, decentralization of things. So that's what I do. So do support Doug. He's a homeschool dad, an awesome person. And what we need to do is start supporting, small businesses, regular people, and stepping off the grid. So aytwit.com. You can hook up with Doug. And look forward to having Doug on again. We'll maybe next episode we'll have screenshots of how you can buy these cryptocurrencies, the different exchanges and things like that. But thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Truth Expedition, and we hope you learned something today. God bless. Take care.